In this episode of the Happy Hustle Podcast, we have on Dr. Michael Breus, who is a PhD and diplomate of the American Board of Sleep Medicine. There's a new book out that we talk about today, Sleep, Drink, Breathe. So we're talking all about sleep and how to optimize it. We're going to be diving into this episode of the Happy Hustle Podcast.
Do you want blissful balance in your personal and professional life? Great. What's up, guys? My name is Kerry Jack, and I want to help you happy hustle a life you love, one full of passion, purpose, and positive impact. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, a professional model / actor, a digital marketing specialist, a podcast host, author, a biohacker, an eco-warrior, a martial artist, a hippie cowboy, and a humanitarian. My goal is to educate, inspire, and entertain you to live a life of passion, purpose, and positive impact. It is time to happy hustle your dream reality. Yee!
All right. Dr. Michael Breus, welcome to the Happy Hustle Podcast, man. I am super excited to rock the mic with you.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. I mean, you are a PhD diplomat of American Board Sleep Medicine and fellow of the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, and one of only 168 psychologists to pass the Sleep Medical Specialty Board without going to med school. And you have been featured on some of the biggest media in the world, from Dr. Oz, Today Show, Oprah. You are an expert in all things sleep. And today we're going to talk about how you can optimize your sleep so that you can happy hustle a life that you love with energy, right? Not be dragging with bags under your eyes. And, you know, I got, funny enough, not great sleep last night because I have a 1-year-old and he cried for 3 hours. So here I am talking to the sleep doctor.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I got roasted. I'm like, of course I'm talking to the sleep doctor today. But anyway, man, I'm excited to have you.
Always happens that way.
Right?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. And by the way, almost every podcast host I talk to usually has crappy sleep the night before. I'm not sure if I'm a bad luck or what's going on, or there's some anticipatory anxiety about talking to me, but I'm a pretty regular guy. I just happen to like talking about sleep.
Yeah, exactly, man. Well, I always like to kick things off with, what is something interesting about Dr. Breus that not too many people know?
Well, here's something. The first thing that comes to mind. I get requests almost every month from students from around the world, usually middle schoolers and high schoolers, who are asking me to be part of their projects, and I've never turned one down.
Wow. That is
Ever.
interesting. So, and you do that just as basically like a selfless service, giving back?
It's just one of those things where I was a kid, and when I was really young, the big thing were autographs. And so we would write letters to get autographs from people. And I remember George Burns, if you know who that name is, very old comedian, passed away many, many years ago, but he actually sent me an autograph and a note, and it really inspired me. And it was cool that somebody who was famous or an expert or something like that was willing to take the time to reach out and give me their signature. And I just felt like, if a kid wants to learn about sleep, there's no universe where I should be stopping them. Like, I should drop whatever I'm doing and maybe hopefully teach them something. So that's something that actually almost nobody knows about me.
Yeah, there we go. I like it. You heard it here first, folks, right here on the Happy Hustle Podcast. So you have probably been asked just about every sleep question under the sun. And so I'm going to do my best not to bore you with some of the same old questions. However, I got to start with a little bit of just general misconceptions. Like, let's say the key 3 misconceptions about sleep that you see most commonly.
Oh, sure. And I think this actually applies specifically to entrepreneurs as well. I know that's kind of the crowd of people that are listening today or watching. So here's one of the things that I see happen quite a bit is sleep's not a priority. It's actually the very last thing on the list. Most of the time, especially when I talk to entrepreneurs, it's like, when my head is bobbing in front of the computer, that's when I'm going to bed, right? And so misconception number 1 is that most people, well, I don't know if it's a misconception, but I think what ends up happening is people people stay up past their real window of alertness,
Mm.
right? And they don't realize it because they're running on basically adrenaline, cortisol, and caffeine, right? Because that's kind of the entrepreneurial lifestyle. As you noted in your historical past,
Yeah.
you burned yourself out,
Right.
right? And what did you do? You were if I had to guess, and I don't know you, but you're probably drinking too much caffeine. You probably weren't sleeping very well. You were certainly stressed out and working too hard. Like that's one of the big misconceptions is you're going to make it through. I guess that's the big misconception, right? Is it's going to be fine. My body can bounce back. I'm young. I'll make it through not having a whole lot of sleep, having a lot of stress, and then loading up on caffeine. So I'd say that's misconception number one is that I'm young, I'm tough, I can handle it. You can't. It will catch up with you.
Yeah.
Mother Nature is a bitch.
Yeah.
Okay. Like that's how it works.
Yep.
And so whether you like it or not, sleep will catch up with you. So I think that's misconception number one. Misconception number two, everybody needs 8 hours. They don't. That's not true. And so what a lot of entrepreneurs will do is they'll say, well, I'm just going to work until 2 and then I'll set my alarm for 10. So that way I get 8 hours of sleep. And then the next night they say, oh, I'm only going to work until midnight. So I'm going to set my alarm for 8 and then get 8 hours. Okay. That's a terrible idea. Okay. So consistency is the other big thing is a lot of people think that having a consistent wake up time, I'm rather a consistent bedtime is the most important thing. That's not true. The most important thing is a consistent wake up time. Let me explain. When you wake up in the morning and sunlight hits your eye, you have a special cell in your eye called the melanopsin cell. That sends a signal to your brain to turn off the melatonin faucet in your head. Okay. So when that happens, there's a timer that gets set. So your brain then starts melatonin again approximately 14 hours later. That's called the melatonin phase response curve. Technical term, but basically it's a timer. So when you wake up approximately 14 hours later, that's when your internal ambient, if you will, turns on. Okay. Here's the problem. When you wake up at 6 during the week and then 10 o'clock on the weekends, guess what? Your internal melatonin gets thrown off. And then so what ends up happening is you stay up late on Friday, sleep in on Saturday, stay up late on Saturday, sleep in on Sunday. And guess what? Your brain that's why Mondays suck, because your brain wants to sleep in because it's been doing it the whole time. So big misconception that bedtime is the most important thing. The most important thing is your wake up time. And it needs to be 7 days a week. Don't take Sunday off. Don't sleep in. Just don't do it. Just get up at the same time. Because here's what ends up happening is it actually ends up forcing you to change your bedtime over the course of time. Because hey, my alarm's going off at 6 a.m. I better not stay up until 2 or that's really going to be awful, right? So I'd say that's big misconception number 2. And then I would say, and that goes along with, by the way, 8 hours being a myth. Because it is a myth. Everybody needs different amounts of sleep. There are people out there, by the way, who need 8 hours. Most of them aren't entrepreneurs, if you want to know the truth of the matter. I've met very few entrepreneurs that actually need only 8 hours of sleep. And the ones that I have met, I'll tell you what they do. They end up starting a sleep company usually. Honestly, it's unbelievable.
Really?
Like they're like, I figured it all out. I'm going to go on my personal, journey and I'm going to do this. And it's like, good luck, man. I don't know how that's going to work for you. But I mean, like, I think that happens a lot to people too. I'd say the third biggest misconception is that caffeine is a replacement for sleep. It's not. Okay. Like you can use as much caffeine as you want. But at the end of the day, the problem becomes that caffeine does not replace sleep. And so if you keep using it to, have you stay up and stay up and stay up, what's end up going to happen is all it does is it pushes sleep further out, right? It doesn't replace it. And so eventually your body is going to get to the point where it becomes so exhausted that it's just going to say, that's it. I'm done. I've got to go to bed. So caffeine is not a replacement for sleep. Bedtime is not the most important time. Morning time is the most important time. And 8 hours is a myth. Not everybody needs 8 hours.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's how we kick it off, man. That's some pure gold there for all my entrepreneurs out there, the aspiring entrepreneurs as well. It is interesting, this 8 hour myth, it really is so widely adopted as just fact. And, here we have it. Dr. Breus debunked it.
Well, it's kind of like the food pyramid.
Right.
It's been around forever. People just kind of follow advice and kind of see what's going on. I will tell you one thing, though. You reminded me of something that I'd like to add to my
Please.
list, if that's okay. Can I add something to the list?
Of course.
So I think there's one entrepreneurial sleep problem that is very specific to entrepreneurs. So here's what it is. Entrepreneurs have a tendency to wake up in the middle of the night, somewhere between 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning, and have an extremely difficult time falling back to sleep.
Mm.
This is, if anybody is listening, actually everybody that is listening, raise your hand if this is you, because my guess is it probably is you at some point in time. And here's what's interesting is I have this exact same problem with my non-entrepreneurial patients, but it's for a different reason. Okay, let me explain. What happens with my non-entrepreneurial patients is they wake up in the middle of the night and they start to stress. They start to stress about finances, romances, kids, life stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. And that they start that hamster wheel going, and then they're doomed.
Yeah.
Then they're just thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, and there's nothing that we're going to do to turn them off. Entrepreneurs do something different. They wake up at the exact same time, but they think about their business.
Yeah, so true. So true.
They don't think about, they're not worried about family and relationships unless it's something major going on. Like if there's some major catastrophic event going on, then that's what's waking them up. But 90% of the time when I'm dealing with entrepreneurs, they wake up because they're passionate. They wake up because they're excited. They wake up because they think they've thought of some idea that is now going to change the course of their business. Okay. Let me be clear. You haven't. Okay. I know you think you have. I've done it myself. I can't count the number of times. I used to keep a pad by my bed with a special pen that had a light on it. And when you clicked it, it would shine a light onto the paper so you could see what you were writing and not have to turn on the lights in the middle of the night. Like that's how far I was going with this.
Yeah.
I know lots of people, I mean, they sell these pens, like there's obviously a market for it, right? And when you start to, like look at and understand these people, what it turns out to be is it really is a different form of stress. And so I have a very unique, and I'd like to share it today. I have a very unique pattern that I want to show people, and then I want to show you what to do about it.
Yeah.
Is that cool?
Please, yeah.
All right. And just to let everybody know, I got a new book out. It's called Sleep, Drink, Breathe, and I talk about all this in the book. So
Heck yeah.
if you want a good book, go
Where do we get that book too?
Amazon, or you can swing on over to my website, The Sleep Doctor.
Awesome.
It's available everywhere.
Yeah, we'll link that up in the show notes too.
Here's what happens is and I'm going to throw in some biology here so everybody understands exactly what's going on. So your core body sleep follows your core body temperature. So your core body temperature rises. It's a peak, usually around 10:30 at night. Then when it falls, when it leaves that peak and starts to drop, that's a signal to your brain to release melatonin. Remember, that's the key that starts the engine for sleep. It's not the only thing, but if you ain't got no melatonin, you ain't sleeping, right? Now your core body temperature drops. It has to go north. It has to heat your body up. Otherwise, you go hypothermic and you die. Okay. So the internal furnace starts kicking in. Guess what time? Between 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning, every single night for every human on earth.
Oh, wow.
Every human. Okay. This is what happens to them. Every human actually wakes up. However, 95% of those people fall back to sleep and they don't even realize that they were awake because they weren't awake long enough. They weren't even awake for 45 seconds. They roll over, they fart, they go to sleep. That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
But then there's the rest of us.
Right.
Okay. This is where the entrepreneurs lie. And so here's the problem is you have a biology problem that is now about to be influenced by your psychology. Okay. So biologically, you just woke up. Now what do? Right? I want you to distract yourself and fall back asleep. But for some reason, you kick it into gear and you start thinking about the business plan or my meetings tomorrow, or did I prep right, or things of that nature. So I want to give everybody a plan of what to do during that period of time. So number one, you need to understand there's one metric that's important, which is you need to have a heart rate of below 60 in order to enter into a state of unconsciousness. Okay. Just store that away because it's going to become important.
Got it.
So when you wake up in the middle of the night, usually the first thing that everybody does is look at the clock. Okay. This is about the dumbest idea in the universe. Why? Because you instantly do the mental math,
right?
And then you're pissed.
So
right?
true.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I've got to get up at 6:30. Sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sleep. And you try to force yourself to sleep. In the history of time, no one has ever been able to force themselves to sleep. Okay? Your energy is going in the wrong direction. Your heart rate is going up. You're pissed off because you just told yourself you only have 3.5 hours. Now you're spinning this whole idea up in your head. You see how the psychology is now affecting the biology.
Right.
Pretty obvious here, right? Second thing that happens, people think they have to pee. All right? I want to be clear about something. If you have to pee, please go pee. Most people don't actually have to pee. Here's what's really going on. You're on your side, you've squunched up on your bladder, right? And when you wake up, you figure, well, I'm up, I might as well go pee. Right? Well, guess what? When you go from a lying position to a seated position to a standing position, you just jacked your heart rate well above 60. So now you got two problems on your hands.
Yep.
Right? And by the way, you probably didn't even pee that much. Okay? Interesting statistic, no mammal on Earth can pee longer than 21 seconds.
Wow.
Okay? It's impossible. But what it tells you is that that's a full bladder. Okay? When people get up in the middle of the night, almost never. Okay? What's happened is you've gotten into a weird sleep position and you're squunching your bladder. And so it's sending kind of this signal to your brain and you're like, well, I'm up, I might as well. I want to be super clear. If you got to go pee, please go pee. Okay? But if you don't have to go pee, relax.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, what am I going to do, Michael? Okay, I'm not peed and you told me not to look at the clock. I did it anyway. I'm pissed off. What do I do now? So what I want you to do now is something called 4-7-8 breathing. So this is a breathing technique. It was developed by Dr. Andrew Weil. This is not my magic pill, but it works. So it was originally developed for the Navy SEALs. And so if you're a Navy sniper and you're shooting downrange and your heart is beating too fast, you can actually change the trajectory of the bullet. So they taught them this technique so they could shoot in between heartbeats. Doesn't really matter. The good news for us is it lowers your heartbeat below 60. And remember, that was the number I asked you to remember before that we want to get to. It's exactly what it sounds like. You slowly breathe in for a count of 4. You hold for a count of 7. You breathe out for a count of 8. Okay. Now I'm going to warn people when you try this, I couldn't do it at first. I had to do 4, 5, 6 breathing before I could get to 4, 7, 8 breathing because it was hard for me to hold my breath that long. But more importantly, it was hard for me to expel for that long of a period of time. Let me explain the biology of why this is so important. It does 2 very specific things. Okay, so most people are shallow breathers, which means they don't use all of their lung. By the way, I talk a lot about this in Sleep, Drink, Breathe.
Yeah.
That's the section we're talking about now, is the breathe section.
Got it.
So what ends up happening is when you don't extend your lung all the way, like let's say you only use your lung halfway, your heart has to beat twice as fast to move that volume of oxygen around your body. What a lot of people don't understand is your body is built to specifically meet the needs of your body. So your lungs are fully expecting for you to breathe deeply every single time. And guess what? Nobody does.
Right.
So their heart is beating significantly faster because they're not using as much air. But by breathing in for a count of 4, holding for a count of 7, and then expelling for a count of 8, you use up all your air, dude. Like there's no way around it. It is, and now you have to take it all in. So what ends up happening is you fully extend the lung, and guess what? Now your heart slows down, which is exactly what we want it to do. But there's a second thing that's happening here as well, which is you're counting. You can't think about all the other shit that's going on in your life while you're counting. Right? So this is a double hack because you're counting and it's lowering your breathing all at the same time. Now, here's the interesting thing is you got to get through 10 to 12 cycles of this before your heart rate dumps. Okay? So you have to do it for a little while. Now, I'll be honest with you. In the middle of the night, I lose track. Right? I can't remember which round I'm on. So what I do is I take my hands and I put them into light fists and I put them by my side. And then when I do one, I just stick a finger out. And when I get through the second one, so by the time I've got all my fingers out, I know I'm close, right? If I want to run through 10 again, I'll run through 10 again. But now my body is right at the precipice. I'm breathing exactly the way my body wants me to be breathing. I'm relaxed and my mind isn't going cuckoo thinking about a million other things. So once you get to that 10 to 12 range or even a little bit further past it, then your body is ready. But wait, we have one more thing that we still have to do. We still have to occupy your brain, because once we stop breathing, we know how that entrepreneurial brain kicks in.
Right.
You're going to start thinking about things again. So what I want you to do is count backwards from 300 by threes.
Oh, geez. I don't know if I could do that
Exactly.
even in conscious
It's
state.
mathematically so complicated, you cannot think of anything else, and it's so damn boring, and you're at the precipice. We can get you there and get you out and under pretty quick.
Wow.
Right? That's how you handle the situation in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Now, what's great about this is both of those techniques, they can be utilized in other points of time during your day if you want. Certainly 4-7-8 breathing. I use that before I get on stage all the time. I mean, right before I got on stage for Tony Robbins at Unleash the Power, I was sitting on the side of the stage doing 4-7-8 breathing because there were 12,000 people in the audience, right? So, it's like, and that stuff's fun for me. Like, I love it, but it was like I had to get focused. I had to, get locked in and do my thing. So this is a technique. And by the way, I go through 6 different breathing techniques in the book. Some will give you energy. Some will relax you. Some will help you focus. Some will help you become more creative. Breathing is arguably the best drug there is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Like, by such a long shot. It's unbelievable. I wish that they had taught me when I was getting my PhD about things like meditation and breath work. I could have helped so many people that I didn't get a chance to help, because my brain was basically forced into this thinking of everybody needs this type of therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, whatever it happens to be. To be clear, there's nothing wrong with all of those therapies, but this meditation and breathwork stuff really works.
It does.
Easy, and you can implement it anywhere at almost any time.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, I think this is an interesting entrepreneurial kind of dilemma, and hopefully I've delineated out enough steps for people to get some ideas.
Yeah. Wow.
Whoa. Apologies for interrupting your programming, but I have to tell you, the best investment you can make in yourself is one in which helps you acquire skills. You've probably heard people talk about, just invest in yourself and you'll be successful. Yes, that's true to a degree, but you have to invest in skills that will ultimately help you achieve your desired results. And I think one of the best skills one can possess, be it an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, is the sales sword. Really knowing how to sell, utilizing pressure-free persuasion, which will make you more money and more impact. Now, if you want to know how to sell more efficiently and effectively, I just launched a sales course called The Proven Roadmap Process to Selling Millions of Dollars and helping you to increase your conversions, guaranteed. And you can get access to this new sales course that The Happy Hustle is launching at thehappyhustle.com/sales. And if you act fast, you'll get it at the lowest price it'll ever be available, because we are launching it and we want to gain amazing testimonials and social proof to further share this knowledge. So if you act fast, you can get it at the lowest price it'll ever be. That's at thehappyhustle.com/sales. Now let's get back to this episode.
Wow. So much to unpack there. One, I just want to echo the point. This 4-7-8 breathing technique is a game changer. I personally use the box breathing method of 5-5-5-5. So, inhale for 5 seconds, hold at the top.
Okay, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
I like 5-5-5 or box 4.
Yeah.
But it's not good for going to bed. It's good for focus.
Gotcha.
But it's not good for lowering your heart rate. You have to actually do the external carbon dioxide dump in order to really get the benefit.
And now, that's what I was going to ask you about. Like, what's the difference? I used it more for, like, when I'm hunting or when I'm in the ice bath or really want to lock in. I've also heard that 6 deep breaths can change your state. Is that true or not? Debunk it here.
So it depends upon your state
that
you're at to begin with.
Okay.
But I would argue that if you do, like, it would make intuitive sense that if you go through 6 full breath cycles, that you're giving yourself enough time to change your mind, basically.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of what I think is happening, along with the infusion of fresh oxygen, fresh air, things like that.
Right. So you mentioned, don't look at the clock, which I think that's huge.
If you can avoid it.
Right.
Don't go pee if you can avoid it.
Don't go pee if you can avoid it. I want to talk a little bit about technology and supplements, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs use both of those things quite frequently. Let's start with technology because it's just inundating our everyday reality, especially as entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We'll stay up late getting after it. Sometimes you're caught in the death scroll on, social media, right? Or
Sure.
whatever, right? You're watching TV. Talk to us about how technology disrupts your sleep. I've heard you talk about how the TV is actually less impactful on a negative sense, less disruptive than, your social media on your phone, because you're actually actively participating with your social media on your phone rather than letting the content wash over you as a TV might do.
You nailed it, brother. You should be a sleep doctor.
You know what?
Like, I don't have a problem with people having the television on because normally there's a timer.
Yeah.
And you're not engaging.
Right.
If you're trying to get your high score on Candy Crush, you're not trying to go to bed. Like,
Yeah.
like that's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, I get it. If you want to zone out and you don't want to think and you want to scroll on TikTok to your heart's content, be my guest, but don't fool yourself into thinking that you're giving yourself runway to land the plane.
Gotcha.
Okay, because you're not. You're not even coming close. Like, your brain needs to not necessarily be stimulated that way. Again, you want to watch television, just let the content kind of flow over you. Old episode of Seinfeld, I could give two shits.
Yeah.
Right? That's great, but
yeah.
If you're, for example, on YouTube watching something that you're highly interested in, you're not trying to go to bed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just have to be thoughtful, I think, in terms of that. Electronic usage, I think, is interesting. Also, I think there's some fallacies out there about blue light.
Yeah.
To be fair, it really depends upon how much blue light you got during the daytime.
Okay.
As to how it affects you at night. There's actually a sleep specialist who's done arguably probably the best job of looking at blue light. His name is Michael Grandisar, Grandisar. He works with a company called Sleep Cycle, like the app.
Okay.
He's the guy who I would say probably knows the most about blue light and electronics in general. And here's what we're seeing again is, I don't think it's the light. I think it's the engagement level. I think it's just, people need to calm down.
Okay. Got
That's
it.
all.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's your take on blue blockers as well? There's wearables that...
Here's the deal. Blue blockers are not going to cure insomnia. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, here's what we're talking about. The 1% of extra margin.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's what a blue blocker represents.
Gotcha.
Going to bed or waking up at the same time every day, that represents about 40% of the margin.
Wow.
Right. So it's like, here's the thing that people just need to understand. This isn't rocket science. Okay. Go to bed, wake up. Don't drink coffee too close to bed. I wonder sometimes, like, people are like, come on, what else can I do? Like, this isn't a negotiation, right?
Yeah.
Like, the best one, by the way, is alcohol. That's the one that everybody lays into me about. They're like, okay, I can do anything you say, Dr. Breus, but do I really have to, not drink alcohol? I don't know. Do you want quality sleep or not? Right? Like, I mean, the data is so significant, and then they start negotiating. Well, what if I just have, one bourbon and one glass of wine? What people don't understand is I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, it's not affecting my sleep at all.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just trying to explain to you that alcohol does something to your sleep. Specifically, it increases sleep at first. It makes you feel sleepy. And then it destroys stage 3-4 sleep throughout the rest of the night. Here's the big problem that most people don't know about this destruction of stage 3-4 sleep throughout the night is during stage 3-4 sleep, that is actually where you get something called the glymphatic system coming in, and it scoops out all these proteins that build up in your brain. And when proteins build up in your brain, you get something called Alzheimer's disease.
Oh.
Nobody listening to this wants Alzheimer's disease.
No.
So you want to get as much stage 3-4 sleep as you can. And alcohol prevents you from doing that. So, genius, don't drink alcohol before bed,
Yeah.
right? Like, again, this is just
Drink
like
it in the morning, right?
Feel commonsensical, right? But at the same time, people are like, yeah, but if I just do this, or what if we do this? People ask me all the time, what about this method? What about that method? It's like, come on.
Yeah. Just, it's like, get back to the basics. A lot of the stuff that is low-hanging fruit will really make the difference. Don't drink alcohol. Wake up on time. Don't drink caffeine too close to bedtime. I've heard the
Right.
3-2-1 method where 3 hours before
Yeah.
bed, don't eat, 2 hours before bed, don't drink, and 1 hour before bed, no technology. I mean, but it sounds like,
So I use the 3-2-1 a little bit differently. So in
okay.
my 3-2-1, I say 3 hours before bed, no alcohol, 2 hours before bed, no food, 1 hour before bed, no fluids.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean,
Does that make sense?
yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk quickly about supplements. I know you're not a huge fan of
You bet.
melatonin, and I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs use stimulants to keep us up and, the suppressants, I guess you would say, to put us down.
Yeah.
I also, personally, one of the sponsors of the show actually has a really great magnesium product, and I'm curious your take on magnesium as well. And then
Sure.
another supplement that I'd like to just kind of hear your hot take on is CBD. So maybe give us your hot take
You
on
got it.
melatonin, magnesium, and CBD.
So I want to start by telling people my theory on supplementation in general. So first of all, I'm not a supplement guy. What I am is a deficiency guy.
Yes.
So what I tell every single person, because people come up to me all the time and they're like, Michael, what's in this bottle? Should I be taking this? And so my theory is very straightforward. If you have a bodily deficiency, let's fix that first.
Mm,
Okay. And there are three that have a lot to do with sleep. And you've already mentioned two of them: melatonin, magnesium, iron, and vitamin D.
yep.
These four things rather, are critical for sleep. Okay. And so if you're deficient, let's fix those deficiencies first. Let's see how this unit operates.
Right.
And then we can start to make some recommendations. I can assure you, no one out there is deficient in ashwagandha. Okay. Like, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Right. And so what people have got to understand is, let's fix this unit first. Okay, Michael, I did my blood work. I've got no deficiencies, but I still sleep like crap. What do I do? So let's talk about melatonin first. Melatonin is a hormone. Okay, many people don't know that. Also, melatonin affects other medications you may be taking. It affects birth control. That should be ringing a big bell for every single person that's listening right now.
Yeah.
It affects antidepressant medication. That should be another big bell that's being rung. It affects hypertension medication, and it affects diabetes medication.
Jeez.
So when you just pop a melatonin that you bought at the local, health food store or grocery store, it is a circadian pacemaker. It changes the clock internally in your body. This is really serious stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. And it has an effect. So please don't just go popping melatonin. Number one, if you don't need it, there are probably 4 use cases where melatonin makes a lot of sense: jet lag, shift work, something called REM behavior disorder, and if you have a melatonin deficiency.
Right.
Okay, that's it. That's really what I would argue is probably the best use case for melatonin, generally speaking. Also, to be fair, I don't like it in kids.
Yeah.
A lot of people out there give their kids melatonin. So number one, when you do that, now you have 2 problems. You have a pill problem and you have a sleep problem with the child. Like, you just taught a child that they need a pill to sleep.
Right.
That's not an association I think that's necessary in
No.
any way, shape, or form. And in addition, children have 4 times the amount of melatonin that they normally need. So once again, you're not doing anyone any good here.
Yeah.
Also, it's a contraceptive in some countries. Like, I can't understand why you would want to put a contraceptive in a young female developing body without there being a really good reason to do so.
Right.
Right? Like, just doesn't make sense to me. So once again, while melatonin is the sleep hormone and lots of people take it, they probably shouldn't be. Also, by the way, it's overdosed 95% of the time. The appropriate dose is somewhere between 0.5 and 1.5 milligrams.
Wow.
I can't find gummies less than 3.
Right.
Right? So it's problematic out there. This is probably the most overused and misused supplement in sleep.
Yeah.
Let's talk magnesium, because I like magnesium.
Okay.
I'm a fan. However, there is not a tremendous amount of research that's been done on magnesium. I am personally going on telling everyone I have done a study on magnesium. We actually published it in a peer-reviewed journal. By the way, almost nobody does studies on supplements. And if they do, they certainly don't publish them in peer-reviewed journals. So the group of the magnesium that I studied was called upgraded magnesium. It has nothing to do with Dave Asprey or the labs or anything like that. It's just called upgraded. It is a special blend of certain ones that we've discovered is absorbed very well. There's a lot of different magnesiums out there. There's 11. Okay.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Don't go crazy trying to figure it all out. What I tell most people, generally speaking, is start with magnesium glycinate because it's easier on the stomach. Then you can move over and have half glycinate, half citrate if you find that magnesium citrate is a bit more effective for you. The other big problem with magnesium is overdosing. Then you end up with diarrhea, and that will be waking you up throughout the night. So be careful about how much magnesium you're taking in and when you're taking it. Yeah. A lot of my patients like this powder called Calm, which is a magnesium powder. You can get it on Amazon or whatever, and they like to take it right before bed. I don't think I care when you take your magnesium. Personally, I take my magnesium in the morning time. It does not make me sleepy, but for some people, it does make them tired. So take it at night. Be careful. Don't overdose yourself. Guys, you want to be at 300 milligrams or less. Women, probably 250 or less. Big thing to remember, however, is magnesium is not something that our body produces. We must eat it. And so what happens is when we eat enough of it, it gets stored into our bones as a reservoir, and then it can be pulled out and utilized when we need it to be utilized. Yeah. So having magnesium supplementation, I would argue, is important. I would actually also argue that most people are deficient in magnesium because the vegetables that we're eating just don't have enough in it. Our soil has been over-tilled so many times that the richness of the mineral has not made it through the stalk. And so we unfortunately don't get a chance to eat it. So I agree with magnesium supplementation, not just for sleep, but for a whole host of other reasons.
Gotcha.
But be thoughtful about your magnesium. So we did melatonin, we did magnesium. What was the third one?
CBD.
What was it?
CBD.
CBD. Let's talk about CBD.
Yeah.
So CBD is interesting when it comes to sleep. And I'm going to be honest with you, there's not a lot of great research out there. There's a lot of people making really stupid claims about CBD, but not a lot of good research on CBD. Yeah. Here's what I can tell you from the research that I've read on CBD, and I want to be honest with you, I've read probably north of 100 papers, is CBD in and of itself does not affect sleep. What it does do is it lowers anxiety and it lowers inflammation or pain. So if you have a sleep problem because you're in pain or because you have anxiety, CBD may affect those things, which then allow the body's natural process to begin to sleep. But when you take CBD, it is not what we call a soporific, meaning that it does not make you feel sleepy.
Makes sense.
Okay. But there is a constituent in cannabis that does, and it's called CBN, as in nighttime. Okay. What is CBN? CBN is oxidized THC. It's old weed, right? So not saying anybody out there ever did this, but when you were in high school and you bought a bag of weed, right? And you stuck it in your closet because you didn't want your parents to find it, and you forgot about it, and you came back 3 weeks later and it was brown and you called it dirt weed. And the second that you smoked it, boom, you fell asleep. That's CBN. Okay.
Okay.
That's what that product is. And so when I go to I live here in California. I go to dispensaries on a regular basis because I'm constantly interested in talking with people. I'm a cannabis user myself, so I don't have a problem with it. Okay. But I'm constantly talking with people saying like, okay, what are you in here for? There's only 3 reasons why people are in a dispensary. Okay. It's recreation, pain, and sleep. That's it. Those are the only reason that people are there. Yet when you go into a dispensary, I have yet to find a company where only focus is sleep. Every other company has got their side product for sleep. And by the way, when you look at their side product for sleep, it's got a lot of THC in it. I don't have a problem with THC, but too much actually increases your heart rate. Didn't we just say that increased heart rate is bad for sleep like earlier in the pod, right? So what we want to do is we want to have a small amount of THC. Why? To get over the hump of that anxiety, to make you feel a little bit looser, a little relaxed. But what we don't want you to do is get stoned, okay? Grandma getting stoned and then waking up in the middle of the night, falling, breaking her hip. Now we have a much bigger problem on our hands, right? If you want to use this in a medicinal way, shape, and form, then do that. Have a metered dose. Understand exactly what you're taking, what's in it, what is it supposed to do, and take it, exactly when you're supposed to take it. again, it's not about getting stoned to go to bed. It's about using a medicine in an appropriate way to help with a constellation of symptoms, whether that's stress and anxiety, whether that's pain, or whether that's sleep. Right. And cannabis, by the way, has got some great medicinal properties to it for a whole host of things. But we all have got to be careful.
Mm,
Okay. It's just not about getting high all the time.
right.
Like, I get it. It's fun. Everybody wants to do that. It's kind of that society. But at the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, this could become highly problematic because over the course of time, especially with the type of THC and the potency of the THC today, it kills your motivation.
Yeah.
Like, people don't get this. Like, you will end up with something called amotivational syndrome, which is bad motivation syndrome,
Mm,
especially when you're using marijuana on the regular at high levels of THC. Like, the data is super duper clear.
mm,
So as an entrepreneur,
yeah.
I get it. You've been stressed out all day. You just want to take a few hits and relax. That's fine. But if you're getting, you know, zonked,
Yeah.
that's a problem.
Yeah.
And it's not good sleep, by the way. The quality of the sleep is not that great. It is better than alcohol. I will tell you that. Believe it or not, if you look at sleep somebody on cannabis and sleep somebody on alcohol, I would say cannabis is a little bit better, especially because it's not nearly as much. When people drink alcohol, they drink a lot.
Yeah. Wow. This has been amazing, Dr. Breus, and I want to respect your time greatly. I just said, okay, this is my last question before I hit you with the rapid fire round, if that's okay. After you have sex, I feel like you fall asleep really
Only men,
easy.
not women.
What's going on
Only
there?
men, not women. So it's a
Okay.
great question, and I get asked the question on a fairly regular
Do you?
basis. So
Okay.
here's what we think, and I don't have any great data on
Okay.
this, is when men have an orgasm. So one of the hormones that's emitted is the love hormone called oxytocin.
Okay.
Okay. When that is mixed with testosterone, it appears to make people feel sleepy. When that is mixed with estrogen, like in women, it appears to be activated.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So one of the things that a lot of guys do is they fall asleep after ejaculation, whether it's with masturbation or sex,
Yeah.
they're fall asleep. One question I got asked fairly recently is it okay to masturbate in the middle of the night to put myself back to sleep? I don't think I care, but remember, you're increasing your heart rate to get to an orgasm, which is kind of going the opposite direction of what we're talking about here. If you find yourself as a guy being super sleepy after orgasm and that's your thing, I don't think I care. Like, I don't think it makes that big of a difference. But for women, it does appear to have a different effect, at least in some of them.
Okay. Good. I'm glad we got that covered. It was on top of my mind.
Sure.
Man, this has been awesome. So real quick, let me put you through the rapid fire round. Just, off the
let's
cuff, whatever comes to mind, you answer honestly. And I usually like to ask just for defining terms ahead of time. A happy hustle hack is like a tip, a tool, a tactic. Okay. So are you ready?
Yes.
Let's go. Favorite food? Hit me with it. Go.
Ice cream.
All right. Favorite movie?
Caddyshack.
Favorite book?
The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Ooh, that's a good one. Best business advice?
We do not lose, we win or learn.
Love that. What's your spirit animal?
Oh, I don't know. I guess a wolf.
There you go. Happy hustle hack for your health. Something uniquely Dr. Breus.
I'll tell you one thing I do that people find interesting is every single morning I sit down on the floor and I spend 2 to 5 minutes with my dogs. Unconditional love early in the morning. There's just something about it, and being able to care for a creature and have that creature care for me. I think that's good stuff.
Heck yeah, man. Happy hustle hack for your money. Again, something, uniquely Dr. Breus, maybe save, invest, or spend wisely.
From on the money side of things, I would say the biggest one is pay yourself first.
Yeah, that's a big
A lot
one.
of times as entrepreneurs, we pay everybody else, and then we end up in a really bad spot, and we're the ones who are driving the business. So pay yourself first.
Yeah, amen to that. Speaking of amens, happy hustle hack for your spirituality. Anything you do to connect to a higher power.
Yeah, the serenity prayer. I really like the serenity prayer.
Yeah.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I also think that's helpful in the middle of the night when people have insomnia, that they feel like they can't change, and they can just kind of give it over,
Yeah.
and allow some other higher power to kind of, you know, look after them for a while.
Love that serenity prayer. 3 things you're most grateful for today.
I'm most grateful for my children. They are difficult, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I am grateful for my wife because she has been willing to put up with me for 25 years,
Nice.
and I am super grateful for my health. I'm 56 years old, and I can, I have a VO2 max of 35, and
Damn.
I can still bench press 185 pounds.
Let's
So I
go.
think that's pretty cool.
And you look great, man. Good for you. Next time we're going to talk about Dr. Bruce's skincare routine. So this is awesome. All right. Last question in the rapid fire round, and that is, if you had a billboard for the world to see with your last piece of content on there, what does that billboard read?
Sleep matters.
Crush that rapid fire round, Dr. Bruce. And man, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you for sharing your love, your light, your wisdom, your sleep hacks, your scientific strategies, and I just appreciate your charisma too. I mean, you really brought it. You're very passionate about the subject. You keep it real too, which I so appreciate. And yeah, just thank you for your time today, man. It was really awesome.
Dude, thank you. This has been a lot of fun. To be very honest with you, I wasn't in the best of moods before this, and you've definitely brought me into definitely a better place. So thank you.
Let's go. All right. And remind people, where's the best place for everyone to follow you online? I know you're big in social, got, hundreds of thousands of millions of followers and likes, and give us a couple places where you're most active. Yeah.
So number one, go buy the book.
Gotcha.
Sleep, Drink, Breathe. Amazon. Yes. It's easy to find. Or go to my website, thesleepdoctor.com. And I have that handle on all my socials. So Facebook, TikTok, X, Insta, you name it, I'm the Sleep Doctor. And we're always putting out good content.
Yeah, the Sleep Doctor. We'll link it all up. Get the book. If people want to work directly with you, are you still taking clients, or is that only for
I am. Actually, on the website, there's a way that you can find an appointment with Dr. Bruce.
Okay, amazing. All right, this has been awesome. Final question that I like to ask is, what does happy hustling mean to you?
I think it means enjoying being in flow. I think it means enjoying, there are people out there that when they're hustling, there's no way they can be happy.
Yeah.
And I think it actually helps identify an entrepreneur. Like if you're happy in your hustle, then you are an entrepreneur. If you're not happy in your hustle, go get a job. And there's nothing wrong with that. I want to be super duper clear. There are lots of people who have jobs and they do great and they have wonderful lives. But if you don't like the hustle, you're not an entrepreneur.
Mic drop. Dr. Bruce, y'all, thank you for watching and listening. We are out. Peace and love, everybody. Peace. Dr. Bruce, this was amazing, man. Real quick, I want to ask you if you would like the opportunity to present as a guest guru to our private community of high-performing, heart-centered male entrepreneurs, all doing minimum 6 figures net, most 7, 8, and 9. Might be a good thing for your private stuff because I know a lot of the guys struggle with sleep. It would be just typically like a 45-minute training. We do them once a month, and I could just have my assistant send over to your team the next available kind of options. And yeah, I would love to have you. Yeah, it's just I think they would so resonate. 1, with your vibe. 2, it might be some great private clients potentially because they can all afford your stuff, I'm sure, and the other thing I was going to say is if you ever want to come out and sleep under the stars in Montana, we do these 5-day backcountry wilderness masterminds where we hike in 10 miles, 3,000-foot elevation climb, and we bring a primitive survival expert, we bring fly fishing experts, but we're doing breathwork, meditation, workouts, cold plunges, but we're all deep in the wilderness, no phones. I take everyone's phones, and we've had $15 million deals get struck around the campfire with a handshake deal. We've had, people save their marriage, all sorts of cool stuff. But it's a badass crew of entrepreneurs. So if you ever want to look into that, you would love to
send me some information.
Would love to have
to check it out.
Yeah, James is gonna come out on one. So this upcoming year, this summer. So
yeah, so maybe whenever James comes, maybe I can come too. So that way I know somebody there, and he and I can do great content together.
Oh yeah, man. I think it would just be awesome to have you and show you, Montana even further. But I know you got a jet. Yeah. Sorry, brother. I could talk to you for a while, but thank you so much for your time, and God bless. All right.
Thanks, man.
Take care.
Peace.